I was around this time of year, 46 years ago, 9 years old at Thomas Jefferson Elementary, right behind Edmondson Village. And I had Betty Getz as my principal. And she made sure that there were arts in the schools in Thomas Jefferson, yes. And art, music, and PE were our things. And that led from my time at TJ through a circuitous direction pathway to the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, where I studied some sculpture. And but the arts for me has always been an important thing. And I started as an educator 34 years ago and have worked in everything from 3-year-olds to sixth grade, 11-year-olds. We stopped at fifth. So other people can have middle school. Going to put them out in after the grade school experiences. Frequently, those tools are considered to be reading, writing, and arithmetic. And sometimes, unfortunately, those seem to be the end goal, to learn to read, write, and add. I look at it a little bit differently, that we give them those tools so that they can interpret the larger world. Reading, writing, and arithmetic are the means to the end. The end is looking at your world and engaging in it and being successful and being a happy, productive person. One aspect of this complex world we live in, and dear Lord, it is so complex these days, is being able to see things in new ways, being able to come up with other solutions for problems that persist, other ways to celebrate things that are joyful. And I think that the arts, whether it's fine arts, dance, music, whatever it may be, are one of the ways that we help children and adults develop in a way that allows them to think creatively, to think around corners, and to approach a complex world. If the world was easy, we would have a list of rules. And we would just go down and a little flow chart, and it says, if this happens, then do that. The world isn't easy. So when the flow chart fails, we've got to think, what's that going to be? What does the Keith Haring tell us? What does a Rodin or a Paulsen tell us about what we can do that will make this a better place, that will fulfill me, our children, as people. So that's what we've been doing here at Wolfe Street for the past 20 years that I've been here. And I would push it back, particularly with Jim sitting here, to 46 years, when on March 9th, 1978, Jim was here. It was probably in the morning, with Principal Chappell, and some kindergarten kids, whatnot, dedicating this new sculpture, Jim's first large piece like this, right? And setting it upon its way with what was then a new building at Wolfe Street. There has been a school here for 172 years. And the entire period of that time, it has been Public School 23, as it still is Public School 23. This is the third building in that 172-year history. And pretty much because of its location, it serves a lot of the new families arriving in Baltimore. Because of the port in elder days. And now it is the Southeast Baltimore is a thriving location of the Latino community. When I started here, we were like the only school with ESOL, English speakers of other languages. Now they're all over the Southeast and beyond. But every one of those kids comes to our door, the best that they are, looking for the tools. And we've been providing them for, under me, 20 of those 172 years. Under Principal Chapel, another chunk, and on back. So I want to say thank you to a few people. I want to say thank you to Jim. Thanks for making this. Yeah. Ben, thank you for coming back and fixing it. Let's see. 2070, we'll need you to come back and do another repair. Okay. You heard that. He said he'd be here. And thanks for, and I'm going to leave it to you to talk about a little bit about the connection with the kids and the stories and naming and all of that stuff. But your connection with those kids back in '78 set us on the path. So thank you for that. I want to thank Laura Babakwa. She is the one that connects with our kids and the arts. Our fantastic art teacher. I've been here for 2 decades. She's been here for 1. And I'm not letting her go anyplace. And I'm even figuring out a way to give her more space, which in this building is a miracle. It's like Hermione's book bag, bigger on the inside than outside. So thank you to you guys for working and sharing the things that you love and you do. Thank you to the Maryland State Arts Council. Big stamps. They come with funding, but they come with support, and they come with advocacy, and they come with keeping it in the public eye. Which, whether it's the 1% for school buildings that I believe this might have been a part of, or being here today. So really appreciate you for that. Thank you to, and I've got my little notes here, but I'm trying to do this extemporaneously, another big word. Want to thank the, okay, I can't do it, and I'm going to forget somebody, and then I'm going to be in trouble. But use my resources. That's what we tell the kids. So, did you guys? Let me see. I got to thank Upper Fells Point Improvement Association. I'm looking over here because Barbara Moore's over here. Longtime friend of the school, one of the first friends I met when I came here 20 years ago, and they have stood by us thick and thin and supported like everything that we want to do. They remind us about parking and dropping off kids, but they help us in every moment. The Baltimore Office of Promotion in the Arts and the Public Arts Commission, again, folks who step up for the things that are important for our kids. And finally, the Friends of Public Art. Cindy, Linda, and Marianne, they found us. I'm sure they knew where we were, but they came and said, we've got this idea. And I was like, who are you exactly? But they convinced me. Exactly. Who are you? We vetted them, background checked, followed them around for a while. No, and then they worked with the Baltimore Curriculum Project to make this a reality and to get everybody together to organize. And I said finally, but I'm going to jump this extra piece in because all you people with the money and the ideas and all of that stuff are really great. And even, yeah. So you built it, whatever. But there was a crew out here who in all kinds of weather conserve this thing for the next generation, so that when Jim rolls in here on his wheelchair in 2070, this will still be a beautiful piece. The conservators, is that the right use of the word? Right, and please remind me names.
Lori Pressheim, Diane Fuller,
Lori and Diane.
Connie Stromberg couldn't be here.
Okay, yes.
And Camille Scholar.
They were here in sun, clouds, rain, bugs, scaffolding way up in the air, fire, wax. It was all very dramatic. And as I was watching it happen, I looked at it when it started, and I was like, no, it looks good. They started on it, and then they waxed it and heated it and took care of it, and it just came alive. And so thank you to the people who actually did the work, exception Jim Paulsen. Okay, I asked Ms. Babakwa if she would say a few words, and believe me, this is not an easy thing for Ms. Babakwa. Give her a big round of applause.
Good morning. This is not my thing. Did not take public speaking at all. So I'm going to read from the notes, unlike Mr. Gaither. Wolfe Street Academy is dedicated to the arts. It plays a crucial role in shaping our school's community. Wolfe Street has offered the study and creation of art to our students for the past 2 decades. It has been my pleasure to now have served as the art instructor for one of those decades, which reading that just kind of doesn't feel like a decade. For us, the arts are not just an addition to our curriculum, but an essential part of every student's growth and development at Wolfe Street Academy. Our goal at Wolfe is to provide each student with the tools to understand and explore their world. Those tools include the skills developed in the traditional 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. But equally, they include the skills that are nurtured by the arts, including creativity, self-expression, and personal perspectives. By developing an understanding of fine arts, its history, its creation, and its appreciation, they are able to see the world through different lenses, develop critical thinking skills, and ignite their imaginations. Just a little information about when I was doing my lessons about Peely Wheelie before I go on the next part. The kids were fascinated by the work that was being done on it. One, they asked me for a decade, what is this? It's a sculpture. I can tell you what it's made of. I can tell you how it was done, but that's all I can give you. So being able to go back in the history and find the information and discuss it with the kids was huge, because now they have that piece of information and they loved it. And the ladies who were out here doing it, I don't know if you remember coming out, and they were asking me many questions, which made my heart really happy. So, over the years, Peely Wheelie has stood as a real-life example of works they learned about and attempted our program. Now, during the restoration and conservation of Peely Wheelie, our students have been able to see an example of the creative process firsthand. That example has opened their world up a little wider, and in my opinion, a central purpose of the arts. Allowing them to see the people behind a work, the hours that go into the creation of a piece, and the end result that we see here today. FYI, they liked it shiny better. They tell me that all the time. Education at Wolfe Street Academy in this subject or form is all about extending horizons. We strive every day for our students to understand the world around themselves a bit more, in a different way than before. Learning to read is central to that, but no less central to our arts program and the unique lessons it provides. We are proud to create an environment where the arts are valued, where the students can thrive, both individuals and creators, and where their voices are heard through artistic expression. Thank you so much for coming and showing the kids the process of the art so they understand it's not just art class. There is a whole nother world that they were able to see and ask questions about. Thanks.
Morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm Laura Doherty. I'm the president of the Baltimore Curriculum Project, which is very fortunate to be the operator partnering with Wolfe Street Academy. I'm really happy to be here today to say thank you to some really important people. The Maryland State Arts Council, again, of course, none of this would be here without you. And our Mark, he could correct me at any moment if I said something wrong. But what I did forget to do was to thank Laura Babakwa, because one of my favorite things to do is to come to Wolfe Street and see the student art that is filled. Is it filled now, or are you waiting to fill it with this year's art? You're in mid-creation? Okay. The school is filled always with art that the kids created. In fact, our offices are filled with multimedia murals that the kids made in their after-school program. Really great work all the time. Thank you.
Yeah, when she's at full steam, you can go up the stairwell and the entire stairwell is filled. And she came up with these things. What's on the stickers? The Post-its? It's positively wonderful or something like that. And you put your name on it as a teacher, and then you stick it on the artwork. And so as a kid's going up, they can see their work was appreciated by this person. And you have all the artwork, and then you have all the stickers of appreciation that the different staff members are putting up. So it's just fantastic. But enough of me. Jim, come on up here. And remember, you don't get to say anything else until 2070. So.
Give a man a mic, be careful. You're looking at a guy who taught for 47 years. So, I guess I will have to give a mic up. Is it actually working? Gotta hold it closer. Yeah. Anyhow, thanks are really in order here. Laurie's group came in after I did some welding, cleaned it up, and did the waxing. We didn't know about that for many years. We let SOS and our great group here that started this thing, thanks to you. Thanks to friends of mine who've shown up today. And I know what a trip it is to come down to this space. Anyhow, no, this piece has always been a real high for me because of all of the work that I've done over the years. My colleagues, the people I trust the most, my fellow sculptors, are the ones that have come to me and applauded this particular piece. And that means more to me than anything. These are the people that work and make sculpture themselves. So that's been a big plus for me. So anyhow, it's and also I kind of thank Louise Bourgeois. Some of you know, who the hell's that? Louise Bourgeois was an artist who erupted on the scene in her 70s. I believe she was in her 70s when she first started making noise. And she brought back this technique that I've used in this sculpture. It's the technique. I mean, I've been using this for 50 years myself, but the technique of fragment buildup. In other words, taking small bits and fragments of material and welding it all together and enclosing space. It's a technique that is very time consuming and very very difficult, really, and yet I've always liked it. the thing I like most about this technique is that when you start out, the very first piece of metal that you weld into the piece is the piece that's going to be there when it's all already done, completely done. In other words, you don't have all these sub processes like casting and all the patinas and all that stuff. When you first start out, you are starting out with the finished thing. So that's one thing I would say. I probably would do better just answering some questions. Because if you let me jabber on, I might keep you here all day.
In terms of the sort of naming and where the sculpture came from, I want to see what you say first.
Well, somewhere in this building, I hope, is the story that the children created, explaining where this came from. They talked about it coming up out of the water and slithering up, and they talked about how difficult it was to get through these small passageways, that are unique to Fells Point, this general area. And there is a story that the kids wrote collectively. I was down a month or two after the piece went up. A painting. They put these paintings up all around this room of where Peely Weely, how he came here. We don't know his teeth. Maybe Peely Weely may be sheep. And may want to change, at some point. So there's a question over here. Yeah.
That was my question. I was just wondering what the process of building it was and your interaction with the students.
Well, when they selected me to do the sculpture, first of all, it was not a mission in economics. If I had not been a teacher, I would have starved doing projects like this. The entire commission was a little over $7,000. And now $7,000 was more than, then, mid 70s, early 70s. And so the pedestal alone cost over $3,000 of that. They took the money for the pedestal out of the 1%. Thank you, fellas. And so I was left with the balance, and most of that went into metal and materials. So one guy was a local postman in the community. He was going to be a self-appointed critic, and he tried to raise some scuttlebutt that who is this guy who's come down into our committee and foisted this thing off on us, and probably made $1 million, So I set him straight. But anyhow, it wasn't for love of money, believe me. I knew that right from the get-go. I was smart enough to know some basic economics. But it was an opportunity for me to do a really large piece. At that point in my life, I didn't have the kind of money where I could go out and spend $3,000 on just materials, So it was an opportunity for me to do a large piece, and I wanted to do something that was significant. And when they told me that it was elementary K through 2, I thought, okay, I'd been reading Mercer Mayer and Maurice Sendak and all these wonderful things to my two kids, who at the time were, my son was 8, by the way. He was 8 when this piece, and my daughter was 6. And so, it was a natural kind of thing for me to work on something for small children. It was in my daily routine, So, and I thought, what is more fundamental to kids than their pets? And, pets that go to school, they can't go into school. They have to sit outside and wait until the kids get out of school. So a lot of that thinking went into it, and like I said, I wanted it to be friendly. He's got this goofy look on his face, And the day we had the first dedication, Frank Luber was here from Jay-Z, and they sat me up on the pedestal here, and they put one first grader on my lap and another kindergartner. Now that's 46 years ago. I've often wondered where are those people, and I was hoping that maybe one of them would show up today. Because what would they be? They would be in their 50s, wouldn't they? So, yeah.
So my question is, do you see this as a piece of interactive work? So if you have children out here and they climb on everything,
Yeah.
Are you okay with that?
No. If kids climb, kids have climbed on this, and the worst of it is big kids, kids that have nothing to do with the school, kids maybe not even in the neighborhood, cause some damage. Amazingly, it was not that damaged, really. I mean, after 40 some years, it was still in pretty good shape. I just had to do some welding on the arms, and Laurie's group really made the difference because they took away all the scratches and the paint. But no, it was never meant to be a playground piece, never. And that's why it's up on the pedestal, and we really don't want children climbing on it. They could get hurt, But lawyers have a term they use called attractive nuisance, and that could be a problem. Hopefully never, but kids will climb, but it's not meant to. And I'm sure the school makes it clear to the kids that it's not to be climbed over and over again.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the addition of wheels on that side?
Well, I'm not the first sculptor or artist to put wheels on sculpture. I mean, that's been going on for really hundreds of years. But I had been working on a series of small sculptures at the time that were on wheels. But when I was working on the maquette for this piece in my studio, I had a little studio at the time, and my son used to come out. He was 7 or 8 he was actually younger when I first started it. Finished it when he was 8. And he would bring, I remember the exact toy. He had a little wooden toy with wooden wheels, and it was just flat, and it was on my bench with all the other stuff. And one of my sculptures kind of landed on it. I thought, that's kind of nice. That's real nice, in fact. And that's what really started me working on these wheelie pieces. And I did a whole series. None of them ever sold. They were creepy. And also they morphed into, because the times were very political, Vietnam War and all that. And so they kind of morphed into something that was more political and more, unkind. Uh, so that was in my head at the time, and that's why I thought, hey, why feet? Why claws? Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how you made it in your studio and then having to transport it here?
Yeah.
Like, what did you have to do
Well,
on site?
inside the piece, each of the figures were made separately and mounted on the piece. The piece itself, the beast, has a half-inch steel rod structure inside. So it's like a cage, you could imagine like a cage on a fan. And then over top of that defines the overall form. Then over top of that is the skin of the metal, the bronze metal. And I went out of my way to cut the metal so that it had a kind of a scaly look to it. So in other words, I could have put any shapes of metal on there. They could have been square, but I wanted something that flowed with the piece. So I went out of my way, and there are seams or weld seams that don't even weld anything together. They're just lines. I needed a line there, so I basically just draw bronze in a line. But again, it's what we call direct metal fabrication, and I call it fragment fabrication because of the nature of pieces. And a funny thing about it is that when I first started really looking to finish it, I had one big hole on the side, and I was banging on the piece, and it sounded kind of tinny, and I thought, that's not good. So I don't know whether I came up with this or a friend of mine advised me, but he says, if you undercoat the inside, take away that tinny quality. So I literally crawled inside with lots of protection, and I undercoated the entire thing from the inside, and then crawled out. Yeah. And then of course when I welded it up, a certain part of it is not undercoated. But, so does that come close?
Well, then you transport. So everything
well,
was done
then,
in your
yeah,
studio, and you brought it here.
In fact, I still have the thing I made that goes around it that went to the chain hoist. And I had there wasn't a lot of money to hire anybody. So I had built a gantry on wheels, and luckily I did this probably about 6 months after my studio was built. So my studio had lots of space. It's like I couldn't even get this through the door now. But so I built this gantry on wheels, and I hoisted it up on the gantry, and I pushed it out on the concrete pad. And then a friend of mine loaned me a tandem wheel trailer, and I hoisted it up on that. And it was wintertime, and of course it snowed. So now I got to get it out of my studio, which some of you have seen my studio. It's down the hill, quite a ways away from the road. So I can't believe I did this. I put chains on my tractor mower, and I hooked up my tractor mower to it. And the minute I put the weight of the trailer, we're talking a tandem wheel trailer now, big trailer, and the thing was all bolted down to it. And I got on the tractor and the front end raised up. So the through the snow with chains on my tractor. I crawled out onto the top of the tractor and drove it backwards. I sat out on the, you know, I'm sure neighbors probably saw me, and I drove that through the yard down to where I could get my van up to it. So, and then I got in my driveway, and 7 students came by and helped me bring it down. And we brought the gantry down here, and we set the gantry up, and we took it off the trailer and hoisted it onto the pedestal. All just low, you know, low tech. You know, I mean, this kind of thing these days would be done with a crew of people that were professional. You know, the whole thing would cost the entire commission just to bring it down here. You know, so yeah, that was. I still have. In fact, I thought it would be funny if I showed up with this thing. I still have the thing that I made to hoist it up. I had belts around the bottom so as not to scar it. But the thing I hooked up to the hoist was steel that I constructed like that. It's still sitting there. Yeah, it's a little rusty now, but yeah. So yeah, it was an experience, and I don't know whether I should say this, but one of my colleagues, students, said, "There's just one question I got to ask." I said, "Yeah, okay." He says, "How did you get those big rivets down there?" I said, "Hold it down. How did you do that?" And I said, "Well, actually, they're not rivets. They're bolts. And I took copper and hammered a cup and epoxied the cup over top of the bolts so that people would think they're rivets." Don't tell anybody. Okay? Don't tell everybody. So, anyhow. Yeah. Very insightful observation on the part of my colleague friend.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you.
Excellent. Okay, I'm looking at the funding guy to see if he'd like to say a few words, but yeah, great. Okay, so kind of going old school. I thought, what would I have liked on March 9th, 1978, as a refreshment? And I thought, animal crackers. And I actually found some that still come in a little box with a little handle on top. So we've got some refreshments. We also have over there, can you hold that up, Brianna? The big one. Well, both of them. This big one, these are 5 copies that are over there of the original program from 1978. They have some words from Jim in it, and the alphabet song that some kids sang. So you take a look at those. There's programs over there from our event with a bunch of people who were involved in making this happen. And just thank you to everybody. Thank you to Jim and Brian and everybody. So appreciate you all. And know that you all have an open invitation to come down to here at Wolfe as they are happening all across the city. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming.